Today I'm going to talk about the 1977 science fiction film Demon Seed, which was based on a novel by Dean Koontz. The film was released by MGM. It was directed by Donald Cammell. It starred Julie Christie and Fritz Weaver. Okay, so this is kind of a sci-fi horror movie. If you think of it this way, it's as if you combine 2001: A Space Odyssey with Rosemary's Baby. Somehow mash up those two movies. So we have Fritz Weaver, who plays a brilliant scientist who designs this computer called the Proteus, which is a supercomputer, very artificial intelligence at a very high level, not too dissimilar from Colossus, the Forbidden Project. Same thing. We have another supercomputer here, and we learn as soon as it goes online, this computer is able to come up with cures for cancer. Okay, so that's how advanced this computer is. Meanwhile, Julie Christie plays the wife of Fritz Weaver, and she is a child psychologist, and Susan is her character's name. And what happens in the story is the computer, once they get too concerned about what, it's sort of like Skynet going online. They become too concerned about what this computer can do. They try to shut it down. The computer's able to restart itself and eventually take Julie Christie hostage inside her house. Okay, so it becomes this home invasion story almost of this woman who is being held captive, in this case by a computer. Now we learn that this computer has an even more nefarious agenda where it believes it can conceive a child with Julie Christie. Okay. This gets into some uncomfortable areas, this movie, where basically you have this computer. It wants to produce progeny that are not like itself, that are super intelligent but also human. The computer is always obsessed with the idea of flesh. Now, should they say the computer was voiced by Robert Vaughn, the famous actor. So the computer, it was designed by men, and it really just views women as a vessel to carry its child. So we have Julie Christie, who there's a very comfortable scene where she's essentially assaulted by this computer. Okay. And she can't escape. She can't get out. And, whatever she tries to do, the computer is able to outsmart her. Okay, so, and, they engage in some dialogue, and we basically learn how Proteus, like I said, wants to produce offspring so it can touch and feel like human beings can. Okay, it's not trapped in the digital space. Okay, so and basically the story moves in that direction, and no one's really able to stop it, the computer. Similar to Colossus, where no one's able to stop Colossus. Now Fritz Weaver, Julie Christie's really clueless husband, arrives towards the end of the film, sees what's happened, and that there in fact is a child now involved, and there is a really disturbing ending to this movie where I won't go into detail, but I guess you could say the movie follows its logical conclusion. I think this movie today, it does have some resonance for today, no doubt about it. Today we hear about these high-tech, your billionaires in the tech industry talking about transhumanism, this idea that some people will be able to merge with a machine someday and will be able to achieve immortality. That's a real thing. Just Google transhumanism. And the idea here is almost reversed, where it's the machine who wants to, achieve immortality, not by becoming part human, which is interesting as well. But we can see with technology today, we learn about AI today, and how it's It can be very nefarious, especially since these systems are designed by men. There's been instances of racism and sexism reflected in AI and ChatGPT and things like that. So just that idea of computers, supercomputers, being a mirror of their creator and their attitudes about whatever, I think can be reflected in this movie. Julie Christie gives a really good performance in the film, and she was in a number of really good movies in the 70s, like McCabe and Mrs. Miller and Shampoo, and I guess she started in the 60s. She was in many good films, and to see her in this very difficult role in a science fiction movie, she does a really good job with the role. But yeah, like I said, this movie raises a lot of, I think, interesting questions about technology being a reflection of its creator. I mean, that can go back to the whole Frankenstein idea as well. So, anyway, a really unnerving movie on a number of levels, but definitely a cerebral movie as well from the 70s. I listened to the Projection Booth podcast, who did an episode on this film several years ago, and the discussion of the panel turned to Demon Seed being like one of the last of those grim cerebral movies of the 70s. Although we get more, I think like David Cronenberg would really explore technology in the body in his films, like Videodrome, especially in the 80s. But we are coming up on Star Wars, which will be released just a few months after Demon Seed, which is, and this is a fair critique, a different type of science fiction, one that's more juvenile, less adult in its approach to themes and things like that. Don't get me wrong, I like Star Wars. I'm a big fan of those, but we do see this sea change in the 70s from the more, which I've talked about in these videos, the more downbeat movies, but are also cerebral and really get into some heavy themes. So Demon Seed represents in some ways the last of that aspect of the 70s. But so that was, I thought, an interesting point in that discussion and where it goes. But I think as for the movie itself, the way it deals with body horror, the way it deals with gender, and just technology running amok, I mean, I think a lot of it's really resonant today, especially with concerns about AI, whether they're over exaggerated, whether they're not. This movie really deals with those issues, I think, in some interesting ways. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Demon Seed. If you've seen it, be curious to get your thoughts on it. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you later. Bye.